Okay, so that all looks pretty decent. What we want to be able to do at this point is probably be able to create some new case files. So we're gonna create something we're gonna create a form. It's gonna be pretty little here, okay? So we do have our different, all of our different kind of case files in here. I'm gonna try and sneak a little form in right under here, okay? Right before our list of case files. So we're in our column, we have this P, we have all of that. I'm gonna add just a section so that I can kind of section this out a little bit. Class row and stub case form. Ooh, actually, let's not make this let's just jump straight to the form, I guess. Okay. Form just like that. And let's make the form the row like we kind of had in the past. And I'm actually going to use one of Bootstrap's input groups. And I'm going to have a input. I want to say you still do form control on here, but then we'll do a button, and I'll just do MDI plus, sure, plus box. How about that? That looks about right. Class btn primary. Kind of add that in. Here's the thing though about these projects, and that is, or about these inputs, is there's really only a couple inputs I need to put in here. I need to put in the agency and class form control. I need to put in a date. There is a date input, which is pretty nice. It gives you a little calendar. You can select a date. We're not worried about a time for this project, just the day. But I can probably also do something more along the lines of like width 50. Ooh, yeah, take up a lot more space there. So I can pick a date, and then I can hit that plus button. Let's add a title here that says create case. So if I hover over that, it says create case. That's very nice. My type date, type that. We need to make sure that we have our inputs in here. So the name of this one is my reported date. And then I'll add an ID, case reported date. And then I'm gonna have a name here. This is gonna be my agency, ID case agency, okay? So this does allow somebody to type in a case agency, but we're gonna have a fixed number of case agencies. I don't want them to be able to just type in whatever they want. So I spent all this time creating this input right here, but I'm actually gonna change this out with a different type of input called a select. And I do believe I want this select to also have the class form control width 50. The cool thing about selects is you can provide options like 1, 2, 3. And this is actually that kind of drop down menu that you can essentially select items from, which is very, very cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create options for our oops, I have caps lock on, A51, our secret National Forest Service, our building for our internal government affairs, and maybe we'll come up with one more. We had the unicorn in there. I like the unicorn. This is going to be our mythological creature department. And this value here is essentially what shows up inside of our list here. But what they actually input goes into one of these values. So we probably just want these to double across, just like that. That way, when they select one of these options, that is the value that will be passed across. And then this can just be our agency. Right, it works, the select works in a very similar way. Case, agency, just like that. So now we have just this tiny little baby form right here that we can kind of complete. Still quite a bit of HTML, even for just this little thing in here, okay? Let's make this select required and this date required, and our form should have an on submit create case file. And let's go to our case files controller. I'm gonna put this maybe above the draws, create case file. And if you kind of remember, one of the first things we need to do is we actually need to prevent default and const form equals event target, okay? Log, not local storage, log submitted, add that form in there. So this is gonna be part of the MCD, this date, add, oh no, uncaught error. Oops, that is because this does not exist, right? If you remember, it's kind of going fast here, app.case files controller create case file. I got to go all the way over there. MCD, the 14th of August, create. We see that form got submitted, points to that form. Form has all those inputs on there. Perfect. Let's do a const case data equals new, or we'll do a get form data. We want to get, if we open up our form handler here, we want to run our get form data utility. We'll pass that form in, and then we can maybe move this console log down and look at the case data. We'll try this again. Submit. We have our form submit, and then we have our data here. That looks great. Let's pass this to the service. Case files service. Create case file. Case data. Boop. Declare that method over there. And if you remember from the Greg's List lesson, or the Greg's List lecture, it is an object that looks like a case file right now, but it is not one, right? Oh, got to fill this out. Create case file is not a function. Don't worry. That was due to the template right here. But this is an object that kind of looks like a case file. It's missing lots of stuff though, right? So we essentially need to do a const case file equals new case file, and let's pass in the case data. And we can log our case file. I like, put our emojis in here. Do our folder and sparkle, because this is our new case file, right? So I pick the MCD, we'll go to the 1st of August. Form submitted, here's my object. I have a new case file. It actually comes with a lot more information now, right? Agency, body's undefined, case file number, ID, and our reported date. So we also have our active case file as a getter. We have our list template as well. So that got created pretty close. This body is maybe a little worrying here, but we'll kind of ignore that for now. We'll address that when it becomes an issue. And essentially what we need to do is we now need to say app state case files push in our case file. So right, that new case file just got added. We want it to be added to the list here. If we do that, however, right, it's gonna get added, but this list does not redraw, mainly because, right, we don't ever tell it to draw. So we probably want another observer looking at our case files to draw our case file list. So now as I add that item to the array using the push, this case files changes. This observer picks up the change because it's watching it, and then it triggers this function. Okay, so if we come back, MCD 1st of August, that list gets extended with that extra item. We can see that goes to 4. I click here, and I can actually look inside the details of this exact case file, which is pretty cool. Now this is weird. How come I'm getting undefined here? Why is undefined just popping up on the page? Well, we essentially created a form that does not include a body. The idea here is, someone would essentially instantiate a case or create a case, and then they would come to the large display to type out a large text body about the case. I don't want them to have to do all of that upon the initial creation of the case. It's going to kind of work in like a 2-step process, and I think they should be able to edit it after the fact as well. So this text body will eventually be an editable field where I want them to type that information in. So there is no body when the case file gets created, but I don't want them to have to supply one. So we probably should just do something like an empty string. That way, whenever somebody goes to essentially create a case file, it doesn't set the body as undefined. It just sets it as empty, and there's nothing there, right? That's a little bit better than undefined. That's not the best, but it's certainly better than undefined, okay? This reported date, this would also be something that'd be nice to kind of format with one of those larger time strings. So if we want to do that, we have to make sure that this reported date is a new date, right? And we'll see that that actually gives us a very long date string. And then why don't we create a getter, get reported date formatted. Very similar to kind of the listing date on Craigslist. Return this dot reported date. Let's do 2 local date string. Oh, right, that's English US. Then we can pass in this object, which is going to have, let's do, well, what is it? Am I doing the right one? It's 2 locale date string. That's right. Calendar. What the heck is the calendar? Let's just see what comes up. Calendar. True. I don't know. What does calendar want? Type boolean is not assignable to type string. Long? I don't know. Reported date formatted. It just gives you that. That's just what the calendar is. That looks terrible. I don't like that. Weekday. Long. Day. 2-digit. Month. Short. Year. Numeric. What does that look like? Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. Beautiful. I think that looks great, actually. Kind of look at these other ones. Sweet. What else do I have available to me? Era, hour, 12 hour, locale matcher, day period. At night? Wait a minute. That's too good. Era, long, AD, Anno Domini, at night. All right, maybe we'll take the era off, but the day period there, I think that's great. I do think though, if that's like an at night thing, I think we should actually come back and change this from a date to a date time. Oh, dang it. That doesn't give us the shoot. Date time. Is it date time local? There we go. Oh, but that takes up so much space. Shoot. Is there any chance I can make it smaller? Oh man, that just takes up so much space to do the date time local. That's kind of too good though. I kind of want to do that. So can we shorten this a little bit? Can we make this like an 8? Oh, yes. If we make it just a tiny bit smaller, that gives us plenty of room. I guess, this is a pretty small view of the page. It ideally would be a lot bigger, so this is probably fine. So let's try this. 8 at 5 a.m. Boop. At night? What the heck is it talking about at night? I thought I put in 5 a.m. Is 5 a.m. not considered night? In the morning. I love it. Actually, that's way too good. That's way too funny. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's great though. Day period at night in the morning. That's good. That's good. We're keeping it that way. Okay. So sweet. I've got my different case files. I can kind of jump through these as I want. However, I now want to be able to save the case files I have. So let's go into our case file service and let's just kind of set up what we've set up before. A save cases and a load cases. Okay. And I'm actually going to show you another utility we have that essentially manages that local storage stuff for us a little bit easier. There's actually 2 things inside of this utility called store. The idea being, that we're storing things, okay? And it actually makes a lot of this process very easy. There's still a couple steps here, but let's do something like const cases equals app state case files. And then what we're going to do is we're going to save. Oh, I do want to open the store here because, again, it doesn't always know to import things. Save state case files, cases. And that's pretty much it. It takes care of the JSON stringifying of data. It takes care of setting a key and setting that into local storage, which is very, very nice. So why don't we go ahead and after we create one, we will save cases. So we'll come in here, MCD, the first at 9:16 a.m. Create that case file. We can go to our application tab. So we can see our Craigslist cars. We can also see our redacted case files. And those are stored in there quite nicely, which is very nice. Okay. Now we just need to load the cases when the page refreshes. And this is also very, very easy, but it does work a little bit differently. Const cases equals load state. And this actually takes in 2 things. So in this case, it's actually going to take in the key, similar to a get from local storage, but it also takes in the data type that the case file is. So in our case, we're actually going to say that case files is an array with case files inside, just like that. That's it. We're not actually creating new case files, but we are passing essentially an array with a case file inside of it. This load state will analyze that instance type. It will pull the data out of local storage, and then it will reclass all of the case files that were loaded from case files into a case file, into an array. If we log loaded cases, let's have our controller case file service load cases. We jump back over to our console log here. The loaded cases, it doesn't just pull out the string. It doesn't just turn them and, parse them. It also reclassifies them for us. So we kind of take something that was, 4, 5, 6 lines of code before, and we kind of abstract that out so that it's a bit easier to kind of manage. This will also handle, if this is the first time they've loaded the application, it won't try to actually load in null data. We had to make that check ourselves before. This load state will already do that for you. So then we just say app state case files equals cases from here. And then when we refresh our page, we'll see that that case actually comes along with it. If I add in one more, 17th, maybe we'll go back quite some time here. 2019, February 6, sure, 12 p.m. Add that back in there. Noon. I kind of wish it was like at noon or midday or something like that. That's fine. But yeah, cool. If I refresh, those cases are all there. Very cool. So let's actually get to kind of the meat of this project, right? These text boxes. I need to be able to enter in more information, about these particular cases. Some very interesting things happen, and I need to, write out that incident report, essentially. So how can I make that actually happen? Well, if we actually jump back over to our case file, we made this a p tag, but we can actually do something a little bit different here. We can actually make this a text area instead of a p tag. Okay. And now, well, it's very ugly, but this is a editable text area. Oops. And this text area is actually a type of an input. Oh, we already have class on here. This will probably look a lot better if we put our form control on it. Okay, that already does look a lot better. It is pretty short though. So what we might do is we might actually open up our, no, don't print that. Sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. Our style CSS and do a text area min height of, I don't know, what do you think? Like, let's just make it really tall. 70% of the view height? Oh, that didn't make it any taller. Text area height, min height. There you go. So that form control must be doing something. Form control is probably making it a bit smaller. 60 view height. 65. That looks pretty good. Obviously, if we shrink this down a little bit, we do want that to change just a tiny bit, but I think this is a pretty good kind of start for what we have, okay? And we can type into this as well. You'll probably notice that it does tab in a little bit, and that is actually because it is rendering the tabs from here. If we want to get rid of those, we actually just have to get rid of our tab spaces right there. And then we'll see that it actually starts where the text area starts. Cool. Text areas. Text areas are awesome. We're probably going to want to do something. Because this text area essentially works like an input, we should change the div that wraps around it into a form, right? It's going to be very hard to tell, but now this text area is now inside of a form. We can give this text area a name like body and an ID like case body, and we could make sure that this form actually submits to something. And we'll call this app.caseFilesController we'll create this function. It's not there yet. And we'll call this save case. Okay. So if we come into our controller, we have a set active case. We'll also have a save active case, save active case. Did I call it that? I think I called it something different actually. Save case. I want to save the active case, truly. Okay. And then we can potentially submit that form. Now, in a text area, it is actually a little bit tricky to submit a form because normally enter can submit a form, but if you're in a text area, enter is overridden for you to actually, create new lines. But that doesn't stop us from adding another button in, right? Save MDI save floppy disk. Oh man, the floppy disk save button. Oh my goodness. Text end. That looks good. Class BTN success, maybe? That looks beautiful, right? If I click this, that submits that form, right? We know submitting forms often, will essentially reload the page. So we want to make sure in this save active case, we have an event prevent default. So that doesn't happen. Log saving active case. We can now see in our log, we're saving that active case. Cool. Sweet. Okay. So this form is not going to work, or at least this form submission is not going to work in the same way that our last form submission worked. In this case, we're trying to extract a lot of data from the form. We're going to try and create an object, and then we're essentially going to add that information into our app state. This time, there's really only one thing that's updating. That's the body. And trying to actually extract that out through a form is actually tougher to go with the standard get form data because that wraps it in an object and then that data's there. We can honestly just get that information out by saying new body equals, if you remember, we'll probably actually break this down. We'll say const form equals event target. We'll keep that one the same. But then, if you kind of remember, we can say form dot body dot value, and then we can log new paper. Yeah, maybe we'll do like a paper here so it looks like that body. New body. Come over here, blah, 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 and I hit save. All right. We just want to get the string out. We don't want to wrap it in an object. We don't care about any other information. All we care about is this information right here, right? What did they just type in? And if they add in more information and hit save, right? We want that new information here, okay? And then really all we're going to do is we're going to send that to the service. Save active case, new body, okay? The service is going to receive that long string of text, that new string of text. It's going to take that in as the new body. I think I'm going to move this down a little bit, down to here, okay? What it should do is say const active case equals app state active case. Really, it just needs to say active case body is equal to the new body. That's pretty much it, right? just take the text out of the box and assign it to the active case. Hold on, I was thinking this was going to be way harder in my head, right? Like, how come I don't have to go find the original case file, update that one? How come I didn't have to, pass an ID through my save? Like, how does it know which one is actually saving? Well, it's actually because when we created like an active case, not only did we set that case aside, but something that's actually really cool about essentially reactive data, if we go look at our app state again after the save active case happens, let's go here. We'll just type in unicorns, and then I'll kind of open my console here so we get a little bit more information. Saving the active case, so that thing has been set aside in our app state, new unicorns. If I go and look at my app state, I look at my active case, I kind of have to go in through some targets and stuff like that, but we can see the body has been updated to unicorns, right? Sweet, that's exactly what I typed in. But what about this case over here, right? Well, because of the way that essentially objects and reactive objects are stored, I think that's going to be number 3. This case file was updated at the same time. Both the active case and the case in the list are both getting updated. What? But I only said, oops, I'm in the controller here. I only said that the active case was updated. I never went back to the list of case files, and I never updated that one. That's absolutely right. I didn't. But technically, when we set the active case file, the thing in the list of case files and the active case, those two objects, they're identical. I'm not creating a copy of it to put it onto the page. They are identical objects just being viewed from 2 different locations, but really they're the same thing. So when I change the body of the active one, I am changing the one in the list too, because they're one and the same thing. They're not actually different things, which is very, very handy, because if I refresh my page, I'll see that that information went away. It's because I don't save anywhere, but I don't actually have to write any other save method. I just need to save the cases again. This save cases will go through this list and save this list of cases. But because we know that this one in the middle and the one on the side are the same, if I save the one on the side, I technically save the data of the one in the middle. That's not actually going to save this to the middle, right? If I type in unicorns again and I hit save, if I refresh the page, nothing loads here in the beginning, but I saved the list, which saved that file and then saves essentially the body as well. So that might be a little hard to kind of wrap your brain around, but through this set active case, just know that this on the side and this in the middle, I'm just looking at the same piece of information from different sides, right? From different views, but the data is the exact same. They're stored in the exact same location in memory. So as I change one, I'm technically changing them both, okay? It's very, very handy. I am getting a couple extra new lines in here. Probably actually want to back this out like that so that nothing extra comes in. Cool, there we go. Unicorns are rad. Save. If I jump over here and I jump back, not only is that saved, if I refresh, click on that again, unicorns are rad. It's still here, so sweet. I can technically do this with any of them. Over their cow field, and made mention that the sheep in the barn were throwing a disco party. Save. If I refresh my page and click on this again, we'll see that data saved through that whole kind of process. Pretty cool.